Hola everyone, I am Jen. I'm the founder of Latinos for America, and today I have a very special guest. I have Laura Perez of, I'm going to say it right, Alma Libre Films, which, gosh, I thought that was so beautiful. Say hi and tell us what that means in Spanish.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with Jen. She was just such an amazing light when I first met her. So when she offered me this opportunity for an interview, I jumped, of course. I am the producer and founder of Alma Libre Films, which, if you break it up, Alma is soul or spirit in English, and Libre, of course, means free. So you combine those together. It's Free Spirit Films, Alma Libre Films, and yeah, that's my company.
How wonderful is that? I mean, it's like I'm always talking about how freedom is like, I can see it's one of my most important values. So I just think it was so fortuitous. And we actually met through Lupe, who I've also interviewed. So do you see how that little community works? We're like, boop, boop, boop. Really awesome. And I initially came to you because I knew that you were a successful Latina producer, but as we've gotten to know each other, it's like not only are you Latina, you've also made films about Latino issues, and you've been doing this for a long time. And I'm just getting started. So, can you just kind of tell us where'd you grow up? How did that kind of evolve?
I grew up on the Mexican border in a small town called Mission in an area known as the Rio Grande Valley. Very rich in Latino culture. I think growing up, our population of Latinos down there was about 90 plus percent. So there was very little of any other culture down there. So it was difficult not to be immersed into the Latino culture. I mean, Latino food, Latino music, Tejano, those are all things that I grew up with. And I found that that's just been so vital to the content that I wanted to create, because you want to create content that you know and that you're familiar with and that you love. And having grown up in that kind of environment that was rich in so many ways and rich in love too, that's what you want to emulate. That's what you want to put out there. It's something that I'm very proud of. Like many Latinos, I got educated, went through college, and even went through law school, and have found that during those different times in my life, sometimes people want you to strip away those layers of being cultural and being Latino. And I found that no matter what environment I've been in, that's something that I always pull back. It's something that I can't remove from myself. So in my entertainment and creative endeavors, it's just something that happens. I mean, I'll get scripts or creative opportunities to do things that are not Latino, and they just do not appeal to me. And I'm always trying to find things that I can do that have some type of Latino influence or colored with some type of Latino appeal. It's an ingrained characteristic that I have that I don't think I'll ever let go. And I think it's more than just having grown up around Latino culture. I think that there are those of us that just identify with that culture and feel it so deeply, whether it's our passion or how we talk or how we speak, how we relate to other people. And that's why when I find projects that are Latino driven, I'm immediately on board. It's really difficult, and I have to try because I have several projects in the works already. And one of the things I find most difficult is to narrow down those opportunities. So I do want to jump on every opportunity that I have, but I also know that quality is really important to me too, which is why Harvest of Redemption, my first feature, was a true story about a farm worker that was murdered. And it was an issue that struck a chord with me, and I knew that that had to be told. My documentary, American Orange, about a community in my hometown that is suffered from contamination because they actually created and manufactured Agent Orange in my hometown in that community. So these are all issues that they're not just Latino. I think they're important to be told, and they need to be heard. But yeah, most certainly, I think growing up Latino is just one component, at least, of my pride, the pride that I have in being Latina and wanting to, weave that into the stories that I tell as a producer.
Now, you're obviously highly educated, and you're very articulate. I could see how you you might have a difficulty straddling that because it kind of, as I was telling you, growing up a little bit, I know it was almost like you needed to pick a side. You're either Latina or you're American. You either embrace this or them or us. Did you ever experience any of that growing up?
Oh, absolutely. I was very fortunate to have gone to a law school, St. Mary's University in San Antonio, that had probably one of the highest ratios of law students in the country. So I was fortunate that I had peers that were also Latinos. But I know that's not the case across the board. And I know I would compete in mock trial and moot court. I was on the competitive team for that. And when we would travel to other universities to compete, I would see that that was not common in other law schools. You didn't see a lot of other Latinas competing on different teams from Syracuse, New York, or from Miami, Florida, or what have you. So I can understand where maybe not having been in that environment, it would have been a lot more challenging. But that's not to say that I didn't feel like there was more of a demand from the prestigious law firms to court lawyers that were not Latino. That was most certainly something that I think was just understood. I don't think the thought ever occurred to me to try to go for one of the top tier law firms after law school because I just knew they weren't going to be looking for someone like me.
Interesting.
So I think on that level I can relate. And I can only imagine what our ancestors and our grandparents had to go through. If my biggest culture obstacle was knowing that in law school I wasn't going to get courted by one of the top tier law firms,
Sure.
That's almost like, a big world problem.
Right.
So I feel even selfish in saying that, but I think it does kind of give a picture of what Latinos, even in educated communities, feel.
Sure.
And how sometimes we feel we're going to be excluded from some of those opportunities that unfortunately don't often go to Latinos.
Now, did your parents go to college?
Yes.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. My father was an administrator, an educator. My mother, however, whom I'm very proud of, she didn't complete her bachelor's until she was in her 40s.
Nice.
And then she went and got her master's in her 50s.
Oh, nice. I like it.
Yeah,
so the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
And the education was something that my parents always stressed. Yeah. And I do feel fortunate for that because I know that's not the case for a lot of, kids growing up. It's where are you going to go find a job and how are you going to make money to help support us? And, those are real issues that youth face nowadays. So I know and understand and recognize that I'm fortunate. And I also recognize that I don't know that I would have innately followed that path had I not had that encouragement. So I feel blessed for that. And I know that until we as a community, as Latinos, no matter where you're from, whether you're Puerto Rican or Cuban or, from South America, until we as Latinos kind of embrace that as an ideology that we need to push our kids, our children to get educated, I think that's going to continue to be a struggle for us as Latinos. It's going to have to be something that we kind of like join together and adopt as a culture, I think.
Oh, that's very interesting. How, I know, but what, do you have suggestions for how we could do that? Because there does seem to be same with me. My mother was a teacher and she was, kind of one of the first in her generation to go to college. So she was like, this is the way, then I don't even want to open up the can of worms about student loans. So we'll save that for another time. Yeah. But, that seems to be, so how do you have any, I know you're doing it with the awareness of just your films, but kind of just getting that message out. I know you've been working on this for so long and Latinos in general have been working on it for so long, but kind of one of the things that I was telling you about is we're still behind. It's like, are we just too nice or, why aren't we catching up to where we need to be?
I think we're not loud enough. And the reason why we're not loud enough is because every time we speak, we get a slap on the hand, whenever we try to do a Unite for Latinos or Voices for Latinos, We get the people that mock on the other side, like, oh, you're just complaining.
Right.
What's your problem? And we immediately shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, we're just talking.
Right.
We have a voice.
This is legitimate.
Right. And I'm guilty of that too. I'm guilty of feeling sometimes even pushing my own films, whether it was to a studio or trying to get distribution. When I felt like maybe I was pushing too hard for my issue, then I would pull away.
We don't want to complain.
Right. We don't want to complain. And I think the only way to get rid of that, honestly, it's kind of like the squeaky wheel gets the grease principle. Until we are heard enough to where people go, you know what? They're going to talk anyway, so just let them talk.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're ever going to get there. I feel like we can get there.
Yeah.
I know that we can get there, but it's going to take a united group of creative individuals like you and myself and my peers that are creating films and putting our voices out there until we say, no matter how much people don't like it, and no matter how much people criticize us, we're not going to shut up. That's one tier. The second tier is making sure that what we do say is impactful.
That's a really good point.
As you know, and we talked about this a little earlier, there are movements out there that are a little bit too brash. And that's not to say that you shouldn't be honest in what you express. But what I am saying is that you should be mindful about the message that you're getting across. Because if you are going to speak and people are going to listen, you want to take the best opportunity with that voice to say what you need to say. It's like anything else. If you get your 15 minutes of fame, whether it's on reality TV or whatever else it might be, everything about who you are and your principles is going to be summed up in those 15 seconds. So when we have our 15-second moment to speak as Latinos, we need to make sure that we're saying things that are impactful, things that are positive, things that are long-lasting, messages that are going to stick. And I don't know what the science is to that. Maybe it's a blend of all those things. Maybe it's a ratio. I don't know if we'll ever get it right, but I know that we won't get it right if we don't keep trying.
I love it. I knew you were going to say that.
Because you and I think alike.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that. And gosh, it's so nice to, I feel like this is just kind of something that my eyes have opened to, and, some traveling that I've done have really I'm like, you know what? Yeah. But similarly too, it was like, I don't know where that comes from, but I don't want to complain. So definitely wanting to do a good balance of education. This happened, and, being solution oriented, being, a problem solver. It's like, okay, and here's how, some possible solutions. So I'm really excited.
Agenda pushing too is a difficulty for all of us as content creators, because we can't make anything Latino without the studio or the distributor or whoever we're trying to sell to thinking they're just trying to tell their stupid Latino story.
Right.
And that's just like a blanket statement or thought that goes across. So, the reality is, though, we do have an agenda.
Right.
And our agenda is to get our story out there.
Right.
And to let people know that we're not all the same Latino,
That's a super good point.
So I think the challenges that we face that we need to figure out, and I don't want to quit trying to figure out, is how do we have an agenda without letting it look like an agenda?
Right.
And that's something that people like you and I as partners are going to have to get together and figure out, so that when we put it out there, it is well received and well accepted. I do know from my 7 years in Los Angeles and now 11 years being a producer that if it looks like a Latino agenda, people are automatically kind of shut off.
Okay.
So
interesting.
How we get there, I don't know, but I'm happy to see that people are trying.
Yeah, I was thinking about something, and so you were talking about, so maybe that's where social media comes in, because we don't have to ask for permission. You know what I mean? I mean, we can hashtag Latino all we want all day long, and that's our little megaphone. So, I mean, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but it's like, how can we do that? When we talked a little bit about looking up the hashtag of Latino on an Instagram or a Twitter, and it does not well represent the array of aspects of the Latino culture. It tends to be things that aren't our higher values. And yeah, I'm gonna say that Latinos, like start, maybe you can start sharing, be your own little megaphone. Start there. Start, sharing pictures about how important family is, and take a picture of Cascarones. I did that the other day, and I was like, man, this is the best game ever. Y'all don't even know. So yeah, I guess that would be, it kind of popped in my head, a little call to action from this.
Yeah. Well, and it takes people like you who are journalists, I would call journalists and content creators, to help put those messages out there. And, we're not going to get our story told or our voice out there until we put it there, and I'm actually guilty of that. I'm one of the producers that's like, nobody tells our stories, and, nobody's putting our stories out there. And then I'm like, okay, well then I need to get to it to finish the screenplay I'm writing and my feature film and my reality TV show. And so it's partially complaining is probably one of the things that's held me back. But I need to be conscious of that and make myself be one of the creators that's putting things out there. And I feel like I've done.
You definitely are. I know. You're being really hard on yourself. I'm all like, do I do that? I'm listening to you. I'm like, she's being really hard on herself. Yeah.
Well, and I think we need to be, because that's the only way we're never going to quit. And you and I have talked about having fatigue, getting fatigued when you're pushing for something that's really important to you. And I think it's okay to get fatigued as long as you get recharged. And I know that those of us, and I know you've, been on this crusade for a while, those of us that feel truly called to do this, we're going to get tired, we're going to get worn out, but there's always going to be a calling that pulls you back. And that's what's happened to me for the last 10 years. I mean, every time I think I can't push this anymore, nobody's listening, nobody's paying attention, the studios don't want to buy this content, I get a phone call. Laura, so I have this project that I'm working on, and all I have to, the first word that has to be said, and it's like, I'm on, is, it's Latino, and okay, that's it.
I'm in.
Yeah. So, but I congratulate people like you, because without people like you that put the stories out there, whether anybody listens or not, they're not going to listen until we keep feeding them
right
the information and keep feeding the content. So I think it's a great thing that you're doing. And there's so many. I mean, I have so many peers that are incredible content creators, incredible producers, incredible directors, incredible advocates that have done some really great things, but we don't hear those stories.
Yeah, no, I just, as I was telling you, I've been watching some documentaries and looking up some film, and I mean, just realizing how distorted my view of Latino history was. I mean, I'm learning, and I'm a little upset that teachers didn't make that a little more clear what was even happening. It's mind blowing, really, and all the information's there. It's the megaphone just isn't big enough.
That's right. That's the perfect way to put it. The megaphone is not big enough, because when you consider the disproportion of our stories and how many of us there are here.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
I know. They say we use social media more than any other ethnicity, and yet we're very not represented. So we're there listening, using it, but not using that megaphone. Yeah, we'll just keep calling it a megaphone.
I like that.
Laura, you've been just such a delight, both in person and via this Skype interview. So that's been really nice. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to tell us about or leave us with? I know you're still working on your film. I will be sure to blast that out when you finish it. Anything else?
So American Orange has been, it's definitely been a crusade of mine since 2008, when I grew up in the community that this happened in. There's over almost a 60% cancer rate in that little area where they produced Agent Orange, which is so tragic. So I'm always going to be pushing for that. But, what I want to say probably in closing is, and this might end up being a little controversial, I hope it's not, when our friends make Latino films and they get a little theatrical release, it could be like maybe in one theater in Austin or San Antonio, go watch the movies. You know, you may not agree that you may not agree with the content. It may not be your favorite film or something that you would normally go watch, but we do that anyway with regular Hollywood films. How many times have we gone to the theater and been like, I really don't want to watch this, but my friend does or my brother does, so until we start supporting each other's content in the theaters or online, there's releases online now. The studios are not going to buy into our value, you know, and that's just the honest to God fact. Something that I learned being in Los Angeles and sitting with studio execs that basically don't think our content is worth anything, and unfortunately, they have the numbers to back it up.
We need to vote with our dollar, is what you're saying.
Yeah, would show me the numbers saying we released this Latino film in Miami, Florida, and only 200 people went.
Wow.
We released this other Latino film in Chicago, and you know, it only sold out one day, and the rest of the days it didn't sell out. So until we can't get picky yet about what content is out there until we actually support the content itself.
Yeah.
And we can start, you know, being demanding about, well, I want a romantic film or I want a historical film. Or first, we need to just support each other.
Okay. That sounds pretty logical.
That's step one. And then we'll hopefully get to the next step later. But that would be my message in closing is just please support our Latino filmmakers and content creators, whether it's a vlog or a blog. Go read it, you know, support it in whatever way you can, because that's the only way we're going to justify our worth in Hollywood.
Thank you so much. That is just so much good information, and I will definitely be asking you for more interviews in the future as this kind of develops, and we need a voice strong and inspirational like yours. So I just really appreciate it, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Jen. Bye, everybody.
Bye.